Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. I'm Courtney.
And I'm Teddy, and in this video we have 10 fragrances picked out that are good fragrances for getting attention, for better or for worse. We're gonna let that be up to maybe who you're around, and I think when you come with these loud fragrances, sometimes they're polarizing, some people aren't gonna like it, but they are gonna probably turn heads more often than not. So that's what we're going for here. You have 5, I have 5.
Teddy, why don't you take it away?
All right, I will start here. This is a fragrance that we have featured on the channel before, but this is not as maybe abrasive or polarizing as some of the other ones that will come. It's more just defined by its spicy nature. This is Costume Nationale with Homme EDT. This, for me, when I smell this, I am just getting an overload of cloves, cinnamon, spices, incredibly warm. It has almost this dusty effect to it when you are able to spray it on. Performance, eternal. Now, it doesn't project out the same way as maybe some of these others will, like they'll really extend off the body. This is more closer. You have a scent cloud around you that's a little bit tighter, but still, once you get this on, it is hard to shake it loose, and it is great for the winter months as well. Next up, Courtney.
All right, I have Bentley For Men Intense, one that we've mentioned a good amount of times on this channel. I think it can fit into a lot of different categories, but this is like a winter superstar. It's rum, incense, it's woody. Notes here, you have leather, benzoin, cinnamon. Again, it's just this very rich amber spicy, very strong, very boozy, has a super sweet opening.
And I think the defining element of this is just going to be like that rum note off the top. The other thing I'll say about this is that many people know, relatively affordable. It actually is not the most inexpensive smelling fragrance on the list, not by, I mean, honestly, like a far margin, actually.
Yeah.
It's right in the middle of the pack, and we have some niche fragrances on this list, but really nice.
Powerful too.
Okay, so for number 3 here, we have Santal 33 from Labo. This is a fragrance we've talked about a lot. I think this is a fragrance that I will define as something that works really well in maybe a tight-knit type of environment. Maybe you're going to a club, a party, and you want to leave this crazy scent trail. That's what I get the most. When you catch Santal 33 in the air, it is fantastic. I think that's when it's at its best. Sure, it smells good on you, but I almost like smelling this fragrance way more on other people and just catching it in the air. For notes here, we have sandalwood, leather, papyrus, cedar, violet. And I would say the number one things you're gonna get here, sandalwood, you have a plethora of that, and then papyrus. Woodsy, also going to have almost this dusty effect. I mentioned that earlier. Same thing can be said here. It's rather dry as well when you get a sense of this in the air. Good for the winter months, longevity is there. And I will also say one thing we're talking about as we're kind of getting into these fragrances, I'd say most of these are going to be unisex, but some are going to lean masculine. I know we didn't address that at the beginning, but just want to mention it here too.
I do like to wear Santal 33.
I think it's totally unisex.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one thing about Santal 33, a lot of hotels will use this as like their signature scent, which I think says something about the fact that it's normally an appealing scent.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like a hotel wouldn't use it if it was going to turn people away.
Yes. And it evokes memory and
Yeah.
like a sensation of like feeling like you like belong, or like, I don't know what it is. There's almost this is a fragrance that's unmistakable once you smell it. You recognize it in more places, and I think that's ultimately why probably a lot of these hospitality, the industry is maybe gravitated toward this one more than others. So this is one when we talk about for better or for worse, I think this one's for better.
Yeah, and it definitely is memorable, I think. Next up, we have Argos Triumph of Bacchus. Kind of reminds me of Bentley a little bit, because it's very sweet on the opening, and it does have that boozy. You get the rum, tonka bean, tobacco, patchouli. It smells to me like wealth, power, and a very flashy party. Doesn't it to you? Because it's very boozy.
This is a unique fragrance for a couple of reasons. One is you have boozy and tobacco, which if I look at fragrances that I typically like, I do like that combination of notes. Also, there's a sweetness to this one, which I actually like. It's not as off-putting as some of those like boozy tobacco fragrances that are really about the business in terms of just projecting out. This one certainly does that, but with the peach, green apple, you get these fruitier notes embedded in between. That certainly helps off the opening, and when you're dealing with these spicy openings, that can sometimes put people off. You do have still a hint of this like medicinal effect to it, but it's not to the same extent as we might see with the fragrance that's going to come next.
Yeah, it's more of a sophisticated boozy too, I think, with, again, because they combine the green apple, the white peach. I think it combines together nicely.
And this is a fragrance house we wanted to try. Like, I've heard people talk about this fragrance, and I wanted to give it a shot. And I think it's for the winter months and getting attention.
Yeah.
It's a nice sweet spot.
Cool packaging too. I mean, I think they really go extravagant here, and this is heavy.
It is. As hinted at a little earlier when we talked about Argos, we have Red Tobacco here. And I think this is where some people will say there's similarities between those two. I get a little bit of that with some of the notes. Spicy, it has saffron in it. Had a little technical difficulties when spraying this, so I just gassed out this entire place because I pulled out the actual atomizer out of the screw bottle. So, 85-degree day, Red Tobacco flooding into the room. It does give you the effect. It is on this list. Now, Red Tobacco, tobacco, vanilla, cinnamon, nutmeg, oud, patchouli, saffron, incense, some of the notes here. Really what it is, strong opening. I would say takes about 15 to 30 minutes, and then that spiciness slowly fades. People describe this as having a medicinal opening, which I certainly can see. And then it starts to dry down and it then hits its stride, I would say, around like an hour in, and then will pretty much sustain itself throughout and just gradually become a much more wearable fragrance. Even though when it does dry down, still is going to project out quite a bit. This is, when we're talking about performance, this is top tier stuff. This is as good as any that you're going to find on the market. And Red Tobacco, if you like tobacco fragrances, we've mentioned this before, not necessarily our cup of tea as much. I like tobacco fragrances. This is a little too much for me. And then also I know that you don't like it, so I don't want to subject you to that type of punishment. Yeah. But still, even when that's considered, if you want to grab attention, you want to get something that's out there, still well done at the end of the day, Red Tobacco. Next up, Courtney.
All right, we've got Paco Rabanne 1 million. If you want one that's going to get you noticed, this one will do the trick. My dad actually has this scent, and I swear every time he wears it out, women compliment him on it or just comment on it in general. So he's probably had to cut back with my mom, but it's cinnamon, amber, leather, spicy notes, a little bit of rose in there. It's very sweet, and I think this is one that you either love it or you hate it. I will say, smelling it after Mancera Red Tobacco, I like it a little more than I typically do, but it's a little too sweet for me. It's very powerful, but again, if that's what you're going for, that's what you like, then this would be a good one for you. The smell.
It's too sweet for me.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about this genre of getting attention, Paco Rabanne's pretty good. They're among the best in terms of doing that.
Next up.
Now, I believe for many people, there's like a fragrance that you smell it and you like it as its own idea. You like the idea of the fragrance. Maybe not as much on you, but you like the concept, and it's just such a vivid and distinct fragrance that it leaves an impression. This next fragrance is exactly that, and this is from DS and Durga. This is Burning Barbershop, and this could not be a more accurate name. They actually get very descriptive in the notes of the fragrance itself when they're like talking about the packaging, and they're saying there was a fire at a barbershop in like the 1800s, and all these shaving tonics just go up in smoke, and this was the smell and the after effect of that thing that happened. So it's exactly that.
Yeah, I like the story behind it too.
It's basically your fundamental elements of a fougere barbershop fragrance. You have your lavender, you have like mint and vanilla, lime. It's fresh, but then the juxtaposition with the burnt oil note is such a weird contrast, but it leaves an impression. This is one of those fragrances, again, that I don't know if I could wear all the time, but there are certain days where this could make sense. This is one of those fragrances, though, for like the right type of individual. Is such a cool fragrance to be that, maybe a signature scent, right?
Yeah,
like this could totally be that.
You know what's crazy? It is so unique and maybe something that a lot of people couldn't wear, but even on the stick, when I put it down, I just like keep going back for more. It's like one of those things where it leaves a little room to be discovered. You just keep wanting to smell it. It's very unique.
Not going to be for everybody, but if how we're describing this maybe is hitting it home for you, maybe worth giving a shot.
Okay, my next one here, we don't actually have the bottle with us right now, but I don't even need the bottle to tell you exactly what it smells like because it's incredibly memorable, and you don't forget it once you smell it, and that is Joop Homme. Notes for this one: cinnamon, vanilla, heliotrope, tonka bean, jasmine, orange blossom, and sandalwood. It's medicinal. It's a little bit sickeningly sweet. My opinion on this one has changed a bit since I first smelled it. The first time you smell it, you're like, oh, this is nice, this is very sweet. But it does become a little bit sickening. Yes. Maybe one of the 4 worst category fragrances on this list, but I could also see this working for a lot of people.
One thing I will also say about this fragrance is at the initial opening, it is very stark. You gotta let this one dry down a bit. If you catch it at the right moment, it can, in the air, I could see why people like this fragrance. For me, it is loud. We don't have it with us. Probably could smell it, honestly, the faint hint of it from across the entire town. So it's that strong. And when you're talking about a fragrance that's like 20 to 30 bucks to get a full bottle of this stuff, I mean, performance, you're talking 12 hours and projecting. All right, so next up, we have Dior Sauvage EDT. Not much really needs to be said about this one. Has become one of the fragrances that's defined the last half decade in terms of popularity. I think this is probably the #1 selling fragrance in the world, especially with the Johnny Depp situation going on right now. Or now it's all over, apparently. Ambroxan, bergamot, pepper, lavender, pink pepper, cedar, patchouli, some of the notes here. But Ambroxan, very strong in this one. Mass appealer, kind of that Swiss Army knife for a fragrance if you're talking about everyday type of wearability. Also is going to get attention with this EDT. It projects out very strong. And one other thing, the reason why it's on this list is when people smell this, I think people generally are able to react in a certain way, right? If you smell this in the air, people are either quick to compliment or quick to have oh, well, that's a lot. Yeah. So it's either one of those two camps, and you can't really dispute that with Dior Sauvage.
All right.
Last one.
Last one here is probably the most unique, one of the most unique in our collection, and that is Nasomatto Black Afgano. Powerful. Strange. The way that it smells is really the way that it looks. It's this dark, mysterious. Notes for this one: oud, incense, cannabis, resins, tobacco. It really is woodsy, hash-ish.
Yes. This is a mysterious fragrance. This is a fragrance that's a bit more avant-garde in terms of what it's going for. Nasomatto as a brand is more like that. It's more daring in their executions and what they're going for. This is probably their fragrance that has more of this cult-like following that I would probably first have spring to mind. But also one that is going to potentially get a lot of reaction.
Oh yeah.
This one announces itself, but kind of also does creep up on you in the same way. So very unique fragrance. One of the probably first that people recommend from Nasomatto, and I think for good reason. Whether or not you like it or not, it is unique, and in a field of fragrances that are so much copy-paste, it's refreshing to see something like that.
And I will also say, the juice in there is what is dark, not the bottle. So if you're wearing a white t-shirt, or honestly just don't spray this on your clothes, I would say.
Yes, unless you're dealing with some heavier fabrics like knitwear, and it's usually a darker color. But otherwise, yeah, I agree.
Beware.
All right, guys, well, that's all we have for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Really appreciate all the support so far and seeing those subs go up. Also, what is your most attention-grabbing fragrance in your collection? What typically gets the most type of responses from people around you when you wear it? Also, definitely check out our Instagram, see some great photos of fragrance bottles, get some more inspiration for the next signature scent, and also interact with us a little bit more personally. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well. We'll see you all next time.